You and I are jet setting, limousine riding. Woo! Woo! Wheeling, dealing, Flywoo reviewing. Woo! Ah! Today we're reviewing the Flywoo Cinerace20. Woo! What's good, everybody? Ken here. You're watching OriginaldoBo. Today, we take a look at this. This is the Flywoo Cinerace20. It is a super compact Cinewhoop that is sporting the 03 air unit. And it is tiny. Just take a look at it in my hand, my ginormous hands. And you could already tell that this is going to be a fun little drone. I gotta give a big thank you to Flywoo for sending this out to me, knowing my track record when it comes to reviewing products. But I'll already set the expectation. I really don't have much bad to say about this drone. My only real gripe with this is when it comes to the pricing. But with that being said, let's just jump into the design of the Cinerace20. So the Cinerace20 has been out for a little bit now. And the only real big changes here is the fact that we do have 03 built inside. Now, the overall design of this, it is made out of a plastic airframe. For the most part, is plastic. There is some carbon fiber here and there, but for the most part, it is made out of plastic. You may be asking yourself, what is this going around the outside? Well, those are RGB lights. They are addressable RGB lights, and you can actually change the colors of them from this little switch over here. There's also a built-in dedicated beeper, which is pretty nice, and it is made in a pusher frame design. The battery is going to sit sideways in a toilet bowl configuration, and yeah, for the most part, it's pretty decent. The 03 camera sits inside of this nice little TPU, and in my experience, I didn't notice any micro vibrations or any sort of jitters with it, so all that checks out pretty good. All right, let's talk about the specs of the Cinerace20 because they did make some upgrades and some changes with this. So inside, we have an all-in-one flight controller ESC. It's a 20 amp flight controller. It's the Goku 405S, and I feel like it performs pretty solid. They did do a good job of pin tuning this and putting some decent rates on it. I'll talk more about the rates and what I think of it after when we start talking about the flight footage. It does have 1203, 4850 kV motors, and I think they worked fantastic. I didn't notice them getting really too hot. It did provide enough power, but what you will notice is there's nowhere to mount a camera to this because it is so tiny, you really just don't have a good way to mount a external camera such as a naked GoPro or something similar. I don't really think you need it with this. This is more designed for fun, not necessarily for professional work. There's also a GPS located right here up the top. This is Flywoo's latest GPS, and over the testing time, I have to say it performed exceptional. I didn't have any issues struggling to get satellites. It just performed, flawlessly for the most part. On the bottom, we do have access to the flight controller. It is a micro USB. I wish it was USB-C just to match the air unit, but it's not. You can gain access to your air unit right through here. And if you decide that you're going to try to gain access to that, you will need to use the included. They actually include a cable. You will need to use this included right angle cable. Highly recommended because otherwise you're not going to have any way to actually get inside of here without that. So this fits perfectly. I'm glad that they included that because I didn't look at the box and I was actually struggling. And then I found that they included one of these inside of there. They also gave me ND filters with this, spare props, and a strap. But let's talk about these ND filters because these ND filters are fantastic. They can be used on any 03 camera. What's nice about this is that it clips on the top and bottom versus the DJI or other filters go sideways, which really limit what you can install these into. So essentially what you do is you just clip this to the top piece and then pop it into the camera and it's gonna sit just sort of like that. They're easy to get off. You just snap your fingernail underneath there. If you have a cocaine nail, it's gonna make it really easy to get this on and off. And well, the nice thing is this works in almost any frame, so not just this frame. So very thoughtful of Flywoo to include those on this build. All that's really fine and dandy, but how does it fly? Well, let's roll some flight footage that I've accumulated over the past couple of days. far as flight goes, I feel like this flies pretty decent. It does get blown around a little bit from the wind, and a lot of that's really due to these full-size ducts that it has. It's just a super lightweight build, and when you couple this with a 450 milliamp hour battery or even a 650 milliamp hour battery, it's really not enough to keep this thing from getting blown around. Any amount of wind is going to make it a bit of a struggle. Indoors, this thing flies like a dream, but as soon as you get outside, it's going to get jostled around and it's not going to really track all that straight. This was really noticeable as I was going through the hallways of this building. It created sort of like a wind vortex and it was pushing me around left to right, and I really didn't feel all that accurate. I've flown at this complex several times before when it wasn't windy, and I was able to go through those gaps where the water fall in that little river, man-made river was, and I wasn't able to feel confident enough in going through that. So a lot of that's really due to these ducts and how much air they're going to catch. There is foam on here, so if you do hit something, you're not going to sustain an immense amount of damage. I did crash this several times in my testing, and the only damage that I received to this is on the actual foam duct guard itself, which this foam is pretty easy. You can pick this up at any hardware store for easy replacement, so not really a big deal there. The overall frame is structurally sound. Even after several crashes, I really didn't notice any issues. My only thing that I would say that I would do to this particular quad itself is maybe just tune the rates a little bit. I think the PID tuning is perfect for this, but I think the yaw needs to be knocked back a little bit as far as the rates, or maybe add a little bit of expo. I noticed it was just a little bit too touchy, like the stick sensitivity was almost too much for this little quad. Because it's so tiny, you really got to be careful with that. But all in all, I really do feel like it flew pretty damn exceptional. Now I just want to talk about the weight of this. So the unit by itself weighs 141 grams without a battery. If you decide to use a battery, I'm using 650 milliamp hour batteries from Race Day Quads, but you can do with a 450 milliamp hour battery. If you pop this sucker on there, you're at about 202, 203 grams, depending on how properly tuned your drug scale is. 202 is still fairly light. You can see it's fluctuating a little bit. The cartels typically get a little bit angry with me when it comes down to that because of that gram difference. It's dollars and cents is basically what it boils down to. But essentially, this is well under the 250 gram mark, so you're perfectly safe to fly this. It doesn't have to worry about the remote ID if you're just flying for fun, which, given the fact that the lights and everything that are on here, you are going to be flying this for fun. It's not something you're going to want to show up to on a professional shoot. So overall, I get about 4 minutes of flight on average out of this. If I'm really ripping on it, I'm going to get about 2.5 to 3 minutes of flight out of this. It's just really going to depend on your battery and how big it is. You can go up to like 750 milliamp hours on this, but I wouldn't go much more over that because then you're going to run the risk of weighing more than the 249 grams. One other thing I want to make mention of is that this particular version is the Crossfire version, but you can go ahead and get these with Express LRS, or you can go ahead and just use the DJI transmission as your receiver. Not recommended, but you can do that. And then the last thing is, how do you access the storage, or how do you get to the SD card? And the answer is you cannot. So what Flywoo did, and this is probably one of the more thoughtful things that they did do, is they included a 128 gig SanDisk SD card already pre-installed in this. So you already have enough of storage, and then you just pull it off using the USB-C. And the nice thing with the O3 Air unit is you don't need the power on the quad in order to get that footage off of it. So you just plug it into your computer, pull the footage off, and offload it onto your computer, and then you just format the SD card the next time you go to fly. I have this set up to every time I arm the quad, it automatically starts recording. And yeah, so nice touch on their part. Now let's talk about pricing. Depending on where you buy this, it's going to be anywhere from $500 to as little as $480. And a lot of that's going to depend on the receiver that you choose. If you go with Express LRS or even Crossfire, you're going to be looking at about more the 500 side of things, which for something this tiny, it is a little bit expensive in my opinion. The vast majority of that cost is made up of that O3 Air unit, so keep that in mind. $229 right out of the gate is into the Air unit. Then you have another $60 or so for the flight controller, and then you have the motors, which are about 20 bucks a piece or so. So, I mean, I guess you can get it up to about $500, but I still feel like this is more of a $400 to $389 quad. But again, because the new hotness is 03, they are going to be a lot more proud of this price and proud of the design. So the price is going to reflect the design. So that's something you're going to want to keep in mind. But overall, it does fly well. It's just, if you want something that you can have fun with, that is incredibly durable. Like I said, I crashed this several times and it's still in perfect condition, then yes, I can recommend this. But if you're looking for something that you can grow with a little bit further, dare I recommend something else? I mean, there are other options out there if you want something slightly bigger and you plan on doing anything professional. But if you're just wanting to have a good time and have fun with the quad, then this is definitely awesome. And then one last thing I want to make mention of, while this does have a beeper, I promise you'll see this quad before you'll actually hear it because these RGB lights are so freaking bright. It looks like something out of this world flying, which I think is pretty cool. All right, that's going to do it for this video. There will be links down below where you can check this out for yourself. None of them are affiliate links. I don't have any affiliate links when it comes to FPV. So whatever you find is just what I found for the best possible price. So there you go. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'm losing my voice because I did the whole Ric Flair thing, but I'll do it one more time because I love it so much. Woo! Stay original.
I heard they checking for me, no one checking on me, so I had to go run up a check. I got the message on me, ain't no flexing on me, my attorney gon' call and collect. Blessings on blessings for me, my successes only made them envious, they got upset. I had to put all their egos in check. I want the money to